Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, 2024 is the 41st anniversary of Donkey Kong 3. Surely, this will be the year of Stanley the Bugman. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm joined, as I'm always joined by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. I feel like the beginning of the year is always a time to just like reflect on the things in your life. And I've got to say, Patrick, how blessed are we that
Where's this going?
that Stanley the Bugman
Yes.
didn't end up being our hobby horse that got taken away from us.
I don't know what we would have done this week in general. No, it's good though. It's look, I love Stanley the Bugman. I never want to stop talking about him. I'm glad that we can.
Yeah.
It's just
a nice thing that we have in our lives.
That's right. And that we will never lose unless we do another hobby horse episode.
Which we probably won't, because why risk it with Stanley the Bugman?
This is a great point. Also, it's been like we did the show for like 6 years before we did one of those. I think we'd have to develop new hobby horses.
I think you're right.
And really, we don't even truly have like that precedent yet because we have not done the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe re-ranking yet, where we rank all of the new tracks and then zipper them together. I think we have to set that precedent, and then it's possible that there's a second hobby horse ranking episode where we have to then zipper them together.
Oh, that would be complicated. Would the character that we're no longer not allowed to talk about, who shares a similar name with the Rankin Bass Christmas special, Nestor the Christmas Donkey, is that a loophole that we can exploit? I feel like I just found a loophole.
I don't think we can.
Well,
regardless, yes.
When we zipper these things together, you know what? Let's not worry about it right now. We have so much to consider in our lives.
That's right.
Let's just be thankful that Stanley the Bugman is here with us today.
That's right.
I mean, not actually literally in the room.
He's not sitting at the table with us. No, because he's out making sure that we got no bugs in the greenhouse.
And no Donkey Kongs.
And thank you. No Donkey Kongs in the greenhouse, please.
Is the Donkey Kong in Donkey Kong 3 the same Donkey Kong as in Donkey Kong 1 and 2? Or is this like a Jaws situation where they're different sharks?
Boy, what a great question. And is it one of the, like, is that what happened to Donkey Kong Jr. when he grew up?
Oh, or is there a whole nother generation of Kong that is like unaccounted for? Like we don't, right? There's Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Jr., and is the Donkey Kong of Donkey Kong 3 like someone's child, but we just don't know whose?
It could also be a prequel. It could be the Donkey Kong of Donkey Kong OG.
You're right.
Cranky Kong. It could be his father.
You're right, and maybe that's why we've never really seen Stanley the Bugman again.
Because he's too old to go on adventures.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, this is it. This is what it is. And that, you know what? That makes him like stately, right?
It's true.
Stately Stanley.
That's right.
Yeah, I think we cracked it. If you would like to hear us crack other things, you can go to patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society, where if you support us at the 8-bit or 16-bit levels, you get access to our once-a-month episodes of miniseries. We are currently working our way through NCS Arcade, wherein Mark and I are going to be playing games on Nintendo Switch Online or Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pass that we've never beaten before. And we are currently playing...
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. The Legend of Zelda Minish Cap.
That's right. And we'll be recording an episode and talking about that very soon. And if you want to play along and talk about it with us, then...
Yeah, we've not set up the mechanism by which you talk about it with us. I mean, email us, of course, at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. Or get it on our Discord, which is a place where you can talk about all kinds of stuff. There will also be a channel where you can discuss your impressions of Minish Cap. Again, just email us and we will send you an invite to the Discord.
And I'm really excited about this discussion. You know, Minish Cap is a game that I've never... This is the premise of NCS Arcade. Never beaten before, but excited to have this reason to really dive into it.
Speaking of dive into it, I think we got to just get into it today because we've got a whole year ahead of us that we are going to be looking at and predicting. So let's just do it. Let's get into the main topic of the week. First things first, Mark. This is going to be a little bit less scientific than last year.
Yeah, it's true. We've neatly folded our lab coats,
Right.
put them away for the moment.
I'm still wearing the goggles, but that's unrelated.
That's right. We put away our Frankenstein and our Frankenstein lifting machine.
Mm-hmm. But Bride of Frankenstein still hanging out, right?
Yep.
She's still here.
Yep.
Because she knows we'll go back to science at some point.
Yes, exactly. We're not forsaking science.
No.
We're not upset that somehow science took the character named after Nestor, the Christmas donkey, away from us.
I don't know why you keep flirting with this. We're getting up to that line and someone's going to call us on it and then we'll have to stop even referring to the Christmas donkey.
You're right. I don't want to push our luck. But all this is to say that we, for the purposes of this episode, have decided that we need a little bit of mysticism.
We need a little bit of like raw speculation.
Yeah.
And part of that is because we suspect that we are going into a new hardware launch year. And despite the handful of things that we know about for the first half of the year, I think Nintendo is being more mysterious heading into 2024 than they have been in years past. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
I feel like last year we had a lot. We had a lot of information to work from. This year feels like much, much less.
Yeah, tell me if this feels right to you.
Yeah.
It feels like we're in a werewolf movie.
Okay.
Or Wolfman movie. Probably a Wolfman movie.
Sure.
We're in a Wolfman movie, and we're wandering out in the forest.
Uh-huh.
There's a path, but it's not a well-maintained path.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of fog obscuring our view.
Yeah.
So we can make out some things. We know some things to be true, but there's a lot that we're just guessing on.
Why is it important that it's a Wolfman movie?
Well, I feel like there's in my mind, there's a big distinction between like a werewolf and a wolf man.
Okay, yeah, I agree. That's not the distinction that I'm like. Why is it a movie of any kind at all? It's just a path that's not particularly well maintained.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Here's because as soon as you started describing the path, I saw Big Fish.
Okay.
Right? And there's that part where there's a fork in the road and the giant goes one way and he goes into this like heavily wooded area.
I don't remember a Wolfman in that movie.
No, that's what I'm saying though, is that the Wolfman seems immaterial to the
that's
setup
interesting.
of the
Well,
scenario.
in my mind, so
right.
Dear listener, it's really up to you whether this is a Big Fish
right.
this is a Wolfman.
Right, and that's up to, there's a poll in the Discord right now. Weigh in and make sure your voices are heard. But okay, so yes, we expect that there will be new hardware. And so we will get to predicting what we think that new hardware is going to be, when it's going to be, what it's going to cost you, all that kind of stuff. But first, I think we want to like lay out what we know for the year so far. And it's a short list of things. We have 6 items on this list here.
Which is common for Nintendo, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like it's not necessarily the number of things we know about this year. It's the weight of the things we know about.
Tell me a little more what you mean?
So let's run down the list really quick.
Sure.
January 19th, so in just a couple of weeks, Another Code Recollection is released on Switch.
And then, do we want to just hit them all now? And
Yeah,
then we'll
sure.
Be back? Okay. And then February 16th, we've got Mario versus Donkey Kong.
March 22nd, Princess Peach Showtime.
Sometime spring 2024 at the earliest, Splatoon 3 Side Order DLC.
And then in summer 2024, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. And then I think just sometime in 2024,
yeah, I think that's
Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door remake. And so what I mean by saying like the weight of them is that other than Princess Peach Showtime and Side Order, which is DLC, everything else is a remake, or Luigi's Mansion 2 is just seemingly like an HD upscale of a 3DS game. Like none of them are...
Well, and I would argue Thousand Year Door is also not like, not going to get the same like level of remake attention as Another Code or Mario versus Donkey Kong.
So you have Showtime, which
Mhm.
seems like a marquee title that is coming out in March. But then everything else that we know about, none of it feels, it's not of the caliber of a major Nintendo release.
And I would argue that Princess Peach Showtime, which is a game I'm excited to play, is more in line with a Yoshi game or a Kirby game, right? Like I think that's probably the where they expect it to sell, where they expect it to like engage critics. Like this it's not a Mario game, it's not a Zelda game, it's not Animal Crossing, it's not Mario Kart. Like I think I would guess that their expectations are lower for it than for like a marquee. I think is just a little bit a level of prestige above what it actually is going
Yeah,
to be.
I think you're right. And really, the only reason I was leaning into that is because it's the one thing on here that, again, other than Side Order HD, is new, is not a remake of some
Right,
kind,
right.
right? It like feels like there's some marketing punch behind it. But I think you're totally right that the expectations for it have to be. I mean, I'm sure they would love for Princess Peach, whatever, to become a big franchise for them, but that doesn't feel like where we're at right now.
Right. So let's maybe let's just like hit each of these releases and just sort of like weigh in on like where our level of excitement is for them, and you know, whether we think there's any possibility of them like moving or offering some kind of surprise or, you know, anything like that. So first up with on January 19th, Another Code Recollection. I am very excited about this. It gives me Famicom Detective Club feelings.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I am a like hair short of my excitement for Famicom Detective Club.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Maybe it was the fact that like Famicom Detective Club was such a mystery, and the
Right.
fact that it had never been released in the US before.
I mean, one of these games had never been released in the US.
Yeah, it's true. So maybe it's just because those have more like legacy than Another Code does in my mind, but I agree with you completely. It's scratching that same itch. I'm very much looking forward to checking this out.
Yeah, I mean the idea of a long lost Nintendo classic, even if it's less classic, although like I don't know how you get less classic than Famicom Detective Club, you know?
And these are probably going to be better, frankly, because they're more modern.
Totally.
So they won't have some of the annoying, you know, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I've been to this cliff a million times. I guess I'll just.
And that is genuinely what you're supposed to do
Yeah.
is go to the cliff a million times.
Yeah.
That's how you progress the game. But yeah, I agree that the baseline for them is going to be less inscrutable than Famicom Detective Club, and I'm also just kind of like, because those games didn't sell particularly well on Switch, or at least like I don't think I've ever seen them in a list of like you know what I mean, of Nintendo of Switch games that have sold and like anything.
No, we don't know how well
Yeah.
they've done. My guess and the speculation online seems to be that they sold like well for what they are. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're definitely not. They were never selling like 1 million
Right.
copies a quarter or anything like that.
Or even maybe 1 million copies, period.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's it's a common not a common thing. It is a more or less regular thing for Nintendo first party titles to sell 1 million, but like, you know, that's a high number of games to sell. So anyway, I'm super excited about this. And then February 16th, Mario versus Donkey Kong.
This is both a sequel to Donkey Kong 94
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the start of the Mario versus Donkey Kong series. I've never played this
Sort
before.
of. So it is because the Mario versus Donkey Kong series after this game goes very much in the minis direction, which is where you are like indirectly controlling the minis as they march along. It's more like a Lemmings game. In this one, you have direct control over a Mario on the screen. So it has more in common with Donkey Kong 94 than it does the future of the Mario versus Donkey Kong series. So like it is. I guess I don't have like a grand conclusion about that, but it would be selling it short to say that it's like the rest of the
I see.
Mario versus Donkey Kong series.
I'm not anticipating loving this game. It's also $50 versus like a $60 release. My expectation is that I will buy it, mess around with it a little bit, but won't become like obsessed with it.
My expectation is that I become obsessed with it. I mean, Donkey Kong 94 is an all timer. I like the minis games. I tend to like them for what they are. But yeah, having a little bit more direct control over Mario, I think, will make it a ton of fun, actually.
And then March 22nd, Princess Peach Showtime.
Yeah, which I think we've talked about a little bit here already. Do you have anything else or any other thoughts about this?
No, I am still super interested in learning more about what this game is.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they got to do the February Direct has to have a blowout.
Yeah.
About this thing, right?
Yep.
So we will withhold any kind of judgment on it until that time. And then Splatoon 3 Side Order. We've talked about this a little bit already as we were discussing all of the first party DLC last year. But I mean, you and I have both fallen off of Splatoon 3 pretty hard. But if there's a compelling new single player thing to do, especially in the vein of a roguelike sort of high score chasing thing, that could be fun.
It seems like it would. All of the things that you were just saying, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how that speaks to Patrick. I've never been able to get into the single player of any of the Splatoon games for whatever reason, and so I don't think that'll change here. For me, I'm more hopeful that at some point Side Order shows up if you're a subscriber of Nintendo Switch Online, and I'm pretty sure that's when I'll be checking it out.
Yeah, that's a great point. But yeah, I also wonder how long the Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pass even is a thing. Expansion pack. Forgive me. All of where again the new hardware year just kind of throws the existence of everything up into question.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm excited for when we start getting into our predictions.
Me too. And then finally, oh no, sorry, we got two more things here. Summer Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. I may straight up skip this one.
It doesn't the way they've presented this does not seem appealing at all. Maybe when we learn a little bit more about it, it will reveal itself to be something more interesting. But yeah, I'm kind of with you.
Yeah, if I want more of Luigi's Mansion on Switch, I'll go back and finish 3. Right? It's also kind of regarded as the worst of the 3 games, and the visual upgrade for Switch so far what we've seen, not impressive.
No, this one feels like a real filler throwaway title.
I agree.
Where it's it's just Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. We're not really remastering it. We're just what it seems like is taking the 3DS game and upscaling it. Maybe doesn't look that good. Whatever. $50.
They must be doing kind of a lot though, because to upgrade from 3DS visuals on that tiny screen to a TV or even a Switch or Switch OLED, I don't I would just think you'd have to do a lot of work to even make it remotely presentable. And I don't know that it is. So, and then lastly, of course, at some point this year, we will get Paper Mario, The 1,000-Year Door, the GameCube classic that I've never played.
Which I like a lot, and I'm excited for it to be re-released and playable on today's hardware. I'm hoping that I don't know exactly what they could do, but some quality of life improvements. There's parts of that game that really show its age, a lot of backtracking, a lot of that kind of stuff. And so it'll be interesting to see if it is just if they do make some of those changes like they did with the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD versions.
To just cut out some of the busy work.
Or is it just going to be a straight up, moment for moment remake?
Yeah, I mean it's a great point. Do you think that they're just calling it Paper Mario: The 1,000-Year Door, or do you think that they that there's going to be a remaster that gets tacked onto this?
No,
or
I
remake
think,
or anything?
I think it's going to be Super Mario RPG, where they're just calling it Super Mario RPG.
But they did change the name of that though, because that was Super Mario RPG: Legend of the Seven Stars, and they're like, no more subtitle.
I guess that's true. I didn't think about that. But no, I still think it's just going to be Paper Mario: The 1,000-Year Door.
Okay, all right.
What about you?
I don't know. I wonder, you remember when they remade Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story on 3DS. And they both came with like Bowser's Minions games, like mini games, not mini game, but just like side games.
Yeah, I mean they were in this. There was this moment in time where Nintendo was doing that.
Yeah.
You know, with re-releases because it's kind
I
of
mean,
like
that's
a
what
plus
Bowser's-
Bowser's Fury type
Yes,
thing.
yeah, exactly.
One was Bowser's Minions. The other one was like Bowser Jr.'s Revenge. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's right. I messed around with both of them, but like Bowser's Fury, a genuinely great experience tacked on to Super Mario 3D World. But yeah, do you think that like something like that could be bundled in here, or
I don't think so. For two reasons.
Yeah.
One, I really think Super Mario RPG is instructive in what they're doing here, and even though this is 2 generations later, you know, where it's just like we're just remaking this game,
yeah,
you know, and it's been so long that it's been available widely, and this is going to be new for a lot of people. Like we don't really need to gild the lily here. And then the second reason I don't think so is like we've talked about, other than Princess Peach Showtime, all of this seems kind of low effort. And
Yeah.
in anticipation of new hardware being released, and so Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door feels like one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's awesome that it's coming. It's time that it's going to be available to play on modern Nintendo hardware, and that's the extent of it. You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. It's just interesting to consider where it was placed in the last Nintendo Direct. It was the one more thing, right? Like it was their hype moment of like, plus we got Thousand Year Door coming. And for it just to be like just a re-presentation of the same thing. I don't know. It feels like I still think that there's more to this than what we know.
That would be cool. It'll be interesting to see.
Yes, it will be. Do we think it's $60?
I do, yeah.
Even though Metroid Prime Remastered was 40.
Yeah, I mean, I really think Mario RPG is a good
That's a great
like
point.
touchstone for what they're doing here.
Except the graphical upgrade is so big in Mario RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like I don't actually know that they're doing anything to Thousand Year Door.
Oh, it definitely looks better.
Okay, all right. It's widescreen if nothing else. Okay, which means it's time for us to move on to predictions. We're off the beaten path here. But one thing that we think we know or suspect we know is that there will be new hardware next year.
Yeah, and Patrick and I, you know, we will get into our individual predictions for the
Yes.
year. But this is one where we're like locking hands, walking down that misty, foggy road in a Wolfman movie or Big Fish.
Definitely it's in Big Fish.
Ben, I think we're both in agreement that we think that a new generation of Nintendo hardware is coming this year.
I sort of don't.
Okay.
I have a date that as part of our predictions for the hardware, we each have a name, a date, a price, a gimmick, and launch window games. And so I have a date that falls in 2024, but I sort of think we don't see it next year.
Yeah, that's interesting. I definitely think we're getting new hardware.
You think definitely new hardware next year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, you've been saying for years now, 2025.
I have been saying for years now, 2025.
Was your bet?
So that's. I guess I'm just staying there. I'm just staying on my previous bet. Though I have a date set for 2024.
Which you don't have to if you want.
No, I
if
do.
you want to pick a date in 2025.
I'm keeping it there. Otherwise, I would say spring 2025, like February 2025. But no, I've got a date. So you know that so we can play this game for predictions for this year.
Okay.
I just I know that like the reporting that we've seen is that like Nintendo is partially like stockpiling the hardware so that they can like meet demand at launch, and that's partially why we like don't have information about it, like that they're like waiting to drop info. But I kind of feel like we would know more about it if it were coming out next year, but maybe not.
Yeah, it's hard to say because we knew so much about the OLED, what turned out to be the OLED.
Yes.
But that was also a major part of that. It turned out to be wrong, which was that it was not more powerful. just the other components were upgraded.
Right. But that only turned out to be wrong because it seems like, this is a conjecture, I guess, but it seems like what was being reported would have been correct if it weren't for like chip shortages and stuff like that.
Yes, but I think what I was leading into
Yeah.
was that we knew so much about the OLED that it feels like we should know so much about this next generation of hardware, but we knew nothing about the Switch other than what Nintendo had told us, right? Like we knew that it was going to that they were combining their like handheld
Right.
and like home console platform team, so everybody was working on the same system, but we knew nothing that it was going to be a hybrid. The speculation beforehand and like the leaks from people who were leaking correct information about software was that it was going to have like analog buttons like GameCube, like all of this stuff
Sure.
that turned out to not be true.
Right.
And so while I agree with you that it is weird that we know nothing, it's not that unusual because we knew nothing about the Switch before it was revealed.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and also like I think we are, I guess we'll get to it when we get to talking about like the gimmick or feature of the new hardware. I do think it is likely that what we're going to see is going to be way more like the Switch than Nintendo usually is between console generations.
That is my thought too.
So like, a lot of stuff, a lot of like plans will just look like a more powerful Switch to, an observer or possible leaker or whatever. So, okay, that all notwithstanding, I'm playing the game. I've got a date for this year.
That's fine. I just want to be noted. You don't have to.
No,
you could
I
say
do.
if you truly believe in your heart,
Right,
that it's being released in 2025, and you want to do that. That's fine with me. But if
I'm going to introduce a phrase here that I'm just coming up with on the spot. I'd like to have my cake and eat it too.
Oh, interesting.
Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, I have to internalize it, think about it. What
Right.
does that
What
mean?
does that
Oh yeah,
mean?
that makes sense.
Right, like I want to both. I want to have a date for next year, and then also still be right if it comes out in 2025.
Hey, you know what? That sounds great to me.
Okay, great.
Having my cake and eating it too.
Doesn't it sound great?
Yeah, that does
like,
sound really
You could
good.
have the cake.
What a
and
turn of phrase.
Everyone loves having it, right? But then, like, well, so you want to eat it, but if you eat it, you can't still have it because eating it destroys it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
So anyway, just that phrase I like, kind of came up with.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We could apply to other kind of. Anyway, all right, let's do this. Let's try to item by item predict this thing.
Great.
Starting with the name. Mark, what do you think the name of this thing is?
So let me tell you my thought process.
I love this.
So in general, conceptually, I agree with you that I think there is a lot that is so good about the Nintendo Switch. It reminds me in this way of like the Nintendo Entertainment System to the Super Nintendo.
Yes. Entertainment system.
Yeah, like that generation where there was so much to having that like Nintendo Entertainment System name.
Yeah.
You don't really need to mess with it that much. And the other thing that I'm reminded of is the switch from the Wii to the Wii U generation. But I feel like the goodwill for the Switch and like the active user base and like all that kind of stuff, the excitement around the Switch is so much greater now than it was at the same time for the Wii. Yes, the Wii had sold a ton of units, but it was early in its life. And by the end, it was losing its shine. And so
in a way that like made Wii shorthand for looks bad.
Yes.
Right?
And then you compound that with the problem that a lot of the Wii's audience that they were trying to appeal to were not closely following the video game market.
Absolutely.
And so what they tried to do with the Wii and the Wii U was similar kind of to what they were trying to do with the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, right? Where like keep that base,
right?
But
just
with show that it's something different.
With the exception that U doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Super is immediately understandable. A Super Nintendo Entertainment System, you're like, that's a better Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yes, and
this is my thought process too.
The U part of it of the Wii U, doesn't reflect, like you're saying, what made the Wii U a unique console, which was the tablet controller.
Did the U stand for unique?
If it did, they never said
They
that.
never said that.
And then I think there's one more piece
Yeah.
to this that is not Nintendo related that is instructive, which is the naming convention that PlayStation has had for their consoles, where they're just like, do you know
Numbers.
what? This is 2.
Yeah.
This is the 3rd one. This is the 4th one. This is the 5th one. It's very clear to consumers that PlayStation 2 is the next generation of PlayStation.
Yes.
But
And doesn't really have the like strikes against it that like naming a game whatever 2 or whatever 3 or whatever 4 carries with it, where you're like, do I need to have understood the previous games in order to play this?
Because we kind of just expect it with like hardware, a lot of different kinds, like phones.
Oh, yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Like they follow a very similar
Mhm.
naming convention, where it's just like, oh, the last one I had was the 6. The one that's out now is the 10, or like the 10. I know the 10 is going to be better,
Yes,
more powerful,
right.
all that stuff. So the naming confusion is gone. But I think that is too un-Nintendo-like to just call it the Switch 2.
It's too clinical.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I agree with this as well.
And so going all the way back, my prediction is that it's the Super Nintendo Switch.
Okay, so right now, when you say Switch, you don't always say Nintendo Switch. Will this just be called Super Switch?
I don't think so.
Super Nintendo Switch, SNS.
I think so. And I think part of that is just because, for trademark reasons, I'm sure they have to have the Nintendo like part of their in there, because I don't know that you could just trademark Switch. But I think it's Super Nintendo Switch because it doesn't have any like historical or racial, like connotations.
Right, sure. Right.
And like
because Super Switch SS, that's a problem.
Yeah, but like SNS, as far as I could Google, nothing
seems fine.
But and I don't think that it'll be new Nintendo Switch, because I think that they've used that in the past.
I think they're done with that brand
for these like half steps.
Yes.
And that's a mistake I don't think they want to repeat from the Wii U generation. So that's my guess, Super Nintendo Switch.
So I'm applying all the same logic, except the thing that I think they want to maintain is the word Switch at the beginning of the console's name. And I know in the past we'd like joked about like Switch Advance, like following in the Game Boy's footsteps. But I'm kind of gonna go with a like suffix word that they've used a lot for re-releases of games that have been like the beefed up versions. I think Switch Deluxe, Nintendo Switch Deluxe.
Oh yeah, that's really interesting. I think
does make it sound like a hamburger.
Yeah, I mean it makes it sound delicious for
yeah.
sure.
Oh, I'd eat it.
Yeah,
that's got cheese on it.
Okay, so let's move on to released date.
Yeah.
I
and again, I don't believe my release date.
But you're going to, what was that phrase that you came up with?
Okay, get this. It's have my cake and eat it too.
That's good.
And I'm going to say August 23rd, 2024.
Okay. I did not go specific as to like actual
August
date.
23rd.
Yeah,
which is a Friday, the Friday before my birthday. 2024.
Okay, I have to look up historically. Okay, so there's that.
It's a weird. So summer is not a common time to be releasing hardware. Which is why I'm putting it sort of like near the end of the summer. But I think Nintendo wants wants some additional time. Like the reason I don't think it'll be a holiday time release is that I think they want time with the consoles on the shelves before, like, selling already, getting a solid sell through before the holiday time when they can release like a big game,
which was a successful model for the original Switch, right? That released in March. You have time for early adopters and everybody to pick it up, and then by the time it hits the holidays, then it's more widely available.
Right.
Hopefully, you've worked out those
supply chain issues. Right, and that was part of our discussion earlier. Is that like it's part of the chatter around the next Switch is that they are stockpiling so that they have a lot to meet demand, so they won't need to have this thing out by March of 2024, but could come out in the summer.
My guess is where I'm staking my flag is in October.
Okay.
And I just pulled up a calendar, and I'm going to say October 18th.
Okay, great.
which is a Friday. So
Yeah.
Friday, October 18th, 2024 is my prediction.
Yeah, and are you kind of just obeying all the same like logic rules as me, but like going a little bit later so it is closer to holiday time?
Yeah, I think that for whatever reason, I just think that it's going to be more of a fall release, but October to get those couple extra weeks before the holiday stuff really starts. But but really, I don't think doing it this late will really have that benefit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I just think it's a little better. I guess what I'm following is you had Wonder come out in October. I feel like Odyssey came out in October. Like that's
Yeah,
sometimes like
that's true.
where they put their
Mhm.
big game when they can. Or yeah. But also
No, I
there's
think that's
examples
right.
of them doing it in November with Pokemon and even December with Ultimate. So but that just seems so late for this.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying October-ish.
Okay. Okay. I for me, I think October is like too late for because with the August release date, you could imagine the initial stock selling out and then them re-upping
Totally.
for the holidays.
Completely agree.
And whereas October is maybe a little late to kind of hit that same cycle.
I think. Look, I know you don't really believe.
I
in
think
the
it's
date.
coming out in
I
2025.
I know you don't believe in the date, but
I
think
will
it's a-
defend this.
But
date.
I think it's a good date.
Thank you.
I think August is a good guess.
Okay, and that'll be my have the cake.
Hi.
date. Price
$450
$450
is what I'm guessing because the OLED is $350.
Yeah.
And I think $50 is not enough differentiation. I don't see them dropping the price
Yeah.
on the OLED, and so I think at least $100 difference to say like this is the old one, this is the new one, and the $100 because like I feel like at $50 you have enough people being like, ugh, is it worth upgrading, right? Or do you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
I feel like it's too
not
close.
psychologically enough for you to be like, I'm getting the brand new thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I am just going $50 above the OLED. I'm saying $399.99. Just because the idea of a $450 Nintendo console seems like so much money. And like what's the most expensive a Nintendo console has ever been? I mean, I guess the OLED is
Yeah,
probably,
I feel like the OLED must be it.
and I just no matter what, they're always gonna. Well, and I guess like it also comes down to like just how backwards forwards compatible is this thing. But like I don't know, Nintendo is just so reluctant to release something that's going to be too expensive for someone to buy for their kid to play Pokemon on, right?
Right, but
if you can play Pokemon on the old systems, like what does it matter?
Yeah,
right.
So, I've yeah. I my guess is that it's going to be more expensive. Do you remember with the Switch leading up to it, there was speculation that looking back on it, you're like, that is why did any of us ever believe this could possibly be true? That it would be $199. And I think maybe the idea was Nintendo had a really rough generation, and so they make it super affordable to try to appeal to as many people as possible.
Or were people conceptualizing it as like a beefed up 3DS, right?
Yeah, also possible. But yeah, I just feel like they've had prices for everything are just
higher,
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like higher. They have had success with the OLED at $350 for so long now, and the Switch at $299 without ever changing the prices. It is crazy to conceptualize like that hardware breaking the $400 barrier, but it's only a matter of time.
That's true. That is true.
I think this would be it. This is not a prediction that I had written down or really hardware, but it made me think about it. You know, I think the next generation will be $450. Do you think that they also turn the key on in the United States? All premier titles are $70, or do you think that they continue this like $60 and we're gonna do like $30 DLC and occasionally like maybe the next 3D Mario game is $70, right? Or something like that,
right?
I guess maybe like
yeah. That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, maybe like $70 will be the new normal for because like they held out at the $50 price point on Wii for and Wii U, right? And then like kicked it up to $60. No, were they $50 on Wii U?
I can't remember.
I can't remember
yeah.
now either. But like they followed slowly behind everybody else when the $60 price point was established as standard, and then like met it. And yeah, I guess you're probably right. They will also meet the $70 price point. Although, like, do they need to? Because Nintendo also doesn't drop the price of their games. That like that's one of the things that like you wait 2 years and Spider-Man 2 is not going to be $70 anymore. But like you wait 2 years and Breath of the Wild is still going to be $60.
Yeah, the sequel is there for
Right.
70, but you're
Right.
still paying 60 for Breath of the Wild. I wonder if the way that like Disneyland prices their tickets is it's a scale,
Mhm.
right? And so they have a the lowest price, which I think is like $105. So it's not cheap, but it's like $105, and they've kept it that for like 5 years or something. So that way, whenever they raise
Right.
prices, they can always point to that and say, well, we've kept like the lowest price the same, and yes, we've increased the high end, but it's variable pricing all throughout the year. Different days you go,
Right,
there's
right,
like
right.
6 or 7 tiers or something like that. And when Breath of the Wild was $70 in the US, Nintendo of America had, press statements being like, well, yes, this is $70 because we think that's the value of it, but we price things on a scale, and we're always exploring that, and we have seen that in reality manifest with like WarioWare games being $50, the Metroid Prime Remastered being $40.
Everybody Want to Switch being $30.
Right, so
like they are all over the scale.
they do explore that scale, and so I think that probably they won't immediately, like you're saying, Patrick, they're not immediately going to go to everything is $70. We just may see more things at $70 and
Yeah.
other things at 60s and
I
other
agree
things
with
at
that.
50 and other things at, like
Well, and I
all
think
in between.
I think the games that will go at $70 will be those that will not be easily monetizable past the initial buy, right? I don't know if we're going to end up talking about Metroid Prime 4, but my expectation would be that that is a $70 game.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because we've speculated, they've never said this outright, but I think it makes sense that part of the reason Tears of the Kingdom was $70 was because they were not planning any DLC for it.
Yes.
And so maybe
I have said that, right?
Right.
I'm like, that's part of the reason why it did not surprise me when they were like, there's no DLC, because everything that was added to, just about everything that was added to Breath of the Wild was present in Tears of the Kingdom from day one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it makes sense. It wouldn't surprise me. Metroid Prime 4 is a great example. Whatever the new 3D Mario game is,
Right.
those big marquee titles could be at 70, but then they still have the rest of the scale to like point to.
Right.
So, yeah.
I actually, Mario is one where I'm almost like, maybe they keep Mario at 60. Like,
Because it's like they're like accessible, like
yes.
for everyone.
Yeah.
Kind of like, yeah, that's interesting.
just like I would expect a Mario Kart to be priced at 60, but then also that there's DLC.
For some reason, though, I'm like Smash. Yeah, that's probably 70.
Smash could be 70 for sure.
Although they have all that potential DLC that they could sell for it, so maybe
Right.
it's better to just
It's a different audience
interesting.
though, and like whatever the next Smash game is going to have to be something different.
It also feels different to me. Like if Wonder was $70, I'd be like, huh. But if the next 3D, like if Odyssey was 70,
yeah.
I'd be or even Odyssey 2, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
So
yeah, Wonder one I don't think could be $60.
Yeah, so I think they
or
really
$70.
So I think they really will have to play around with that scale in order to continue to be successful. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're like, yeah, everything is $70 now, but it just doesn't feel practical.
Yeah, it doesn't feel practical to me either. Okay. The next thing on our list here is gimmick/feature. And since now I go first,
Yep.
right? Mine is, and I've talked about this before, but some kind of wireless communication to the dock. It's basically a Switch that has wireless communication to the dock so that you can use it as a dual screen, using the TV as one screen and the Switch in your hand as a second screen for dual screen play, and that the Nintendo DS games will go on NSO. That's what I perceive the gimmick to be, is this like wireless communication to the dock.
And so the dock can display something independent of the Switch.
I mean, it can display independent, like where the Switch doesn't have to be like actually cradled.
I guess what I'm asking is, your part of your prediction is that Nintendo DS games will be part of this.
Yeah.
And so they like, am I understanding correctly that the TV would be like the top screen,
Yes.
and the Switch would be the bottom screen, and so
Yes.
that's totally different than how the Switch works right now, which is the TV is reflects what's
Right.
on the Switch's
Yes,
screen.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
But that you could still do, for even in the days of the DS and the 3DS and the Wii U, that's still most of the gameplay is happening on a single screen.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't lock you out of most of the experiences on the system.
I mean, I'd love to see DS and 3DS games, represented more broadly, and so, or at all on the Switch in forms other than remakes occasionally here and there.
Right.
So yeah, that would be awesome. My guess is, my prediction is way more basic than that, than even something that cool, which is it's. I think that they'll put a camera and microphone on it.
Yeah, sure.
And they'll put a camera and microphone on it, and then this one, is possible that you might have it as like a kind of separate prediction, but to me, this is something that they will bundle in as like part of explaining the new features and why it's exciting. And I think it's fully backwards compatible, which means the full Switch, Nintendo Switch Online libraries, all of your eShop purchases, like your Nintendo account, you log in on your Super Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch Deluxe, and you're able to download all of your games that you had previously. The full, like, Tetris 99 is there, like all of it. It all rolls over.
Your island migrates from Animal Crossing. Yeah. I agree with that. I don't have it listed as one of my predictions, but I'm just like, we can't start over, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel possible.
Right.
It feels like the world has moved beyond that being acceptable.
I agree with that. And I also think that like Nintendo has enough like online games now between just Mario Kart and Splatoon, where I'm like, you have to let people play between those systems.
I also think it buys them time in that, like, you don't need immediately Mario Kart 9 or 10 or whatever they're going to call it.
Right.
And you don't need immediately a new Super Smash Brothers, because people can still buy Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Right.
Super Smash Brothers Ultimate can still exist, and you don't have to market it as new. It's just compatible. And then a couple of years down the line, when there's more space between, like, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's Booster Course passes finishing up, or their waves finishing up, know, like, it would feel weird to me to immediately move into 9. But if 8 Deluxe is still playable, that buys you time in a couple of years in to say, like, and now here's 9.
Yeah, I mean, we are about to move into launch window games, and like, spoiler alert, I do have Mario Kart 9 in that list, and this last was it October or November? I think it was October. Was the first time that Mario Kart 8 fell out of the top 20 best-selling games since it launched on Switch
in North America, right?
In North America, yeah. Which is just like, even with the DLC coming out, the gas behind Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is finally wearing off.
It's just sold so much. At some point, there's not going to be anybody else left to buy it.
No, I mean, and that's definitely true. But like, that's what makes me think that, like, the sooner they can get 9 out, the better for them. Are we ready to move on to launch window games?
Yeah.
Mark first now.
Okay, so by launch window, I'm saying like the first 9 months. I don't really know exactly what window means, but not like day. I'm not saying this will happen all on the day, but I do think Metroid Prime 4 is going to be a Super Nintendo Switch launch title.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's
launch or launch window.
I'm going to go ahead and say launch.
Okay.
I think it launches with the new Switch, but I think that a 3D Mario game similar to Odyssey is revealed but comes later.
Yeah.
And I think Call of Duty 2024 is there.
That's what a great pull.
I think
Fantastic,
like
yeah.
I think it is day and date with
Yes.
if the game's already out by the time the Super Nintendo Switch is released, then I think that it's day and date. Otherwise, I think it launches with all the other versions.
Yeah. So smart.
Next year. And then finally, I don't know, some like snipper clip sized
Some itty bitty
new
game.
like IP. I can't even take a guess at what it is because it could be never would have guessed hoardy pieces of paper.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or arms, right?
Right,
It's another
right.
that like fits perfectly in that kind of thing. Okay, so you listed what, 3 games total there?
Yeah, so
Or
Metro
4?
Prime 4,
Right.
new Mario 3D game is revealed, Call of Duty 2024, and then, yeah, some smaller, new, kind of like downloadable game
Yeah.
of the size of snipper clips.
So I also have 4 games. So the 2 that I have listed for launch are just me picturing Nintendo with dollar signs in their eyes, Animal Crossing and Mario Kart 9.
Ooh.
That like those are launch day games, which means one of them is action focused, the other one is like sim focused, and you get the 2 biggest selling games on Switch on the new thing. So and also like the Mario Kart 8 team, if they've just been like slowly working on the booster because like that's the same team that worked on ARMS, and so it's like Kart 8 Deluxe and ARMS, and then what, just DLC for the last 5 years?
Right.
Like they've been working on something.
Especially because that DLC is, repurposed tour tracks. And I think a lot of those people worked on tour as well. I don't really know the crossover there.
It's
but
tough too. I mean, they have a separate credit roll at the end of the booster course pass with like, here are the people who worked on this. So like it is presumably distinct from the team that worked on the first.
Right. And, those courses were, like I said, like also shared with tour
Yep.
or remakes of older tracks. So not that it wasn't any work, but very different from the work that would
Absolutely.
be required of a new Mario Kart game.
And then Animal Crossing, the New Horizons hasn't been supported really past its first year. So yeah, it would just
It'd be 4 years.
It'd be 4 years.
The
Yeah,
last
like,
one. Yeah.
it's ready. It's time. And then by the end of the year, that's where I put Metroid Prime 4 and Kid Icarus Uprising, a straight port on now this like dual screen thing that I'm predicting. Just Kid Icarus Uprising.
Yes. I wouldn't say that Sakurai has been like teasing it, but the fact that he talks about it,
He talks
seeming
about it a lot
all the time,
Yeah.
makes me think that it is real.
But that is, I think, my like furthest fantasy thing. But Animal Crossing, Mario Kart 9, and Metroid Prime 4, if those aren't out within the first year of the next Switch, like I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, interesting. I would be personally very surprised if Animal Crossing is a launch title.
Yeah.
And
I just New Horizons like changed like the whole paradigm around that series, and what Nintendo is to people shifted.
yeah, I mean, hard to argue with that.
Yeah. Okay, so then beyond that, we just have like regular old predictions for games and stuff for the rest of the year.
And if I may be so bold,
Yeah.
I'm going to start with the Pokemon prediction.
Please.
Okay, yeah. I think that it stays on Switch as the main hardware in 2024.
Yeah.
I think that it's another like lighter year for Pokemon, and my prediction is that we get Gen 5 remakes, which is Pokemon Black and White, which is from the Nintendo DS generation. And hey, maybe, well, actually I just said that it would stay on the original Switch. But yeah, that's because I was going to say, hey, maybe it fits in with your
sure, dual
Nintendo
screen
DS
thing.
dual screen thing. But I have a hard time imagining Pokemon is going to release its newest games on the next generation hardware.
Right.
But if it's backwards compatible, how much does that really matter?
Right. Well, and I mean, we've talked about like the problem with Pokemon, before, and like that they do sort of genuinely need to have a new generation come out every 2 years, right? 2, 3 years, 3 years, every 3 years.
I think 3 years.
and that like going longer between it means that you like miss the pocket of giving every child growing up like their generation when they're right at the time when they're most likely to be engaged with it. But yeah, man, it sure would be nice if they could just like take a year off and then like put out a really polished product for the mainline Pokemon.
Yeah. Although we would still be like looking at 2025, right? For the
I guess that's
next
right.
generation, even if it is just 3 years.
Yeah.
So next year feels like primed for a remake and some sort of, side project.
Yeah.
Detective Pikachu returns again.
Pokken tournament one more time. Okay, that's a good that's a good prediction. I'm gonna throw out what I think is kind of a this is another like current Switch software patch, right? Like patch over the holes in the library / keep running with the porting of stuff. This is the year we finally see the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD ports come over to Switch. How many years in a row can we predict it before it becomes true?
You know what? I want to know something funny.
What's that?
My second prediction is no Zelda in 2024, and that those HD Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD skip the Switch entirely, but eventually show up on the new hardware.
Yeah. No, I'm not convinced that these will be on but I think they got to come out next year.
Interesting.
Yeah. Whether they're exclusive to the next thing or are released on both.
Yeah. That was my second prediction.
Okay,
so you can
I'll just do another prediction, and I'm actually going to do 2 back-to-back here because one of them is really quick. I think once we hit a year of F-Zero 99, that they're going to take it down. All of their support for it came out so fast, and they're just going to put a Mario Kart 99 on there.
Oh, that could be fun.
Same basic concept, but and even using the Super Mario Kart, version of it, like playing the same kind of hits as F-Zero, but just with a more popular game.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun, and so much more accessible in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, totally. And yeah, then just like feeds into the Mario Kart 9, whatever. But anyway, the other prediction that I had here that I wanted to slot in now was some creative suite of some kind. Nintendo has this history of like Mario Paint and the Artist Studio on the 64DD, and between Game Builder Garage and Super Mario Maker 2, it's clear that they still have some of that creative, let the player create energy alive, but it's been like too tied up in game creation on Switch. And I just think that there's another version of that could be that could show up on Switch, whether that's like visual art, music, something, some sort of creative suite on Switch. And as we were talking about in the previous episode, it's been a while since there's been some like other way to interact with your Switch.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That, like Labo or
Yes.
Ring Fit Adventure, because that was such a big talking point for Nintendo at the beginning of the Switch's life. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like in 2024, we are due for another Nintendo Muso game. And maybe it's Tears of the Kingdom related.
What?
Like
they go back to the well.
Yeah, like Age in the spirit of Age of Calamity, where they're like, you know what? Here's something from Tears of the Kingdom that we're gonna tell some like side story on that may or may not actually happen because of time travel stuff.
Right. Fall of the Zonai. We got to see them lose to Ganondorf, right?
Right? Yeah, you totally could. And
spoilers for the flashbacks in Tears of the Kingdom.
But yeah, I think, or maybe it'll be completely unrelated and it'll be Splatoon or something. But that has been seemingly so successful for them.
Yeah,
and I especially feel like Age of Calamity had a lot of people talking about it in a way that the previous ones had been more niche. And so I could see them totally going back to the well and
Yeah.
using that to like bump out their release schedule.
And it's about time too, right? Like we have what, 3 of them, right? We've got the original Hyrule Warriors and then Fire Emblem Warriors.
Don't we have 2 Fire Emblem Warrior games?
Yes, we do.
New Hope?
Yeah,
3 hopes?
3 hopes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that one was only a couple years ago now, right? 2 years. They pump those things out so fast.
Right, but it's been a
To
while.
the point where I forgot about 3 hopes.
But it's been a while,
Yeah.
and so it does feel like, and if not they will, but we have seen this kind of like TikTok between Zelda and Fire Emblem.
Right.
And so we'd be going back to talking for Zelda.
Yeah. That's that's interesting. I wonder if there's another. Is there another Nintendo franchise that fits in that mold?
Not easily. I mean, we did a whole episode where
Yeah,
we talked
that's
about
true.
other potential Nintendo Muso games.
And we forgot all about it. So. No, that's good. I think you're probably right. I always trick myself into being excited, at least a little bit excited for these games. You're much better at not falling for it.
Well, I mean, I bought. I just don't care that much about Fire Emblem to
Right.
like buy a Muso
Right.
game because I know at this point I know my appetite for Muso games, and it was no different for Age of Calamity, where it was like I bought it, I played 3 or 4 hours, and then I was like, yeah, I've had my fill of this.
Right.
And I anticipate that when they release a Tears of the Kingdom Muso game, I will do the same exact thing.
Yeah, it all stands to reason. What about a Pikmin one? I'm sure we talked
That'd be
about
so
this
funny.
on our episode.
Would you be Olimar or a captain with lots of Pikmin, but the field is just filled with those like weird
those bulb guys.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean that's probably yeah. So are you out of predictions then?
No, I have one more.
Okay.
I have one more.
I have 2 more, and the first one here is I think pretty quick. Either a sequel to or a deluxe version of Ring Fit Adventure. And possibly tying in a new peripheral or something like that. Some other way to get like another piece of hardware in your house that's not the new Switch. We talked about it already, but Ring Fit Adventure was a pretty high seller for them and like successfully engaged people on the Switch in a different way.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think there's any question that Ring Fit Adventure was helped by all the pandemic lockdowns.
Totally.
And so I wonder how much of that success would be reproduced, outside of it. But still, I think Ring Fit Adventure sold like over 10 million copies. So even if it's not that level of success,
Right.
it could still be very successful. I kind of would be surprised if they did a new peripheral, but it makes total sense to me to be like, hey, everybody has these rings in their home. Let's let's do another game.
Yeah. Well, and like the thing with Ring Fit Adventure is that like it is also a even if it's a habit that people have dropped, it was when you are engaging with it, it becomes a habit by necessity, right? Either it becomes a habit or you don't engage with it. And like habits are the kind of thing that people like get interested in again, right? If there's a new one, they could be like, "Oh, I remember having that habit,"
Right?
And that like wanting to get back into it. It's a good jumping on point, a good reason to engage with Ring Fit Adventure again.
And can you imagine if we meet like Drago's even hotter cousin?
I cannot. That's too hot. I think he has a hot lady cousin.
It's very possible. She's like a dragon like model in Sweden or something.
Yeah, I love it. Let's do it. Let's get more babes on my Switch.
Okay, my final prediction is 2024 is the 30th anniversary
Here we go.
of Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah.
So the original Donkey Kong Country on the Nintendo 60
no.
on the Super Nintendo.
Yes.
And I am not quite ready to stop believing that Nintendo is working on a new Donkey Kong game.
Yes.
And I think, and the rumors from like 2020 or something were that it was not a direct sequel to Donkey Kong Country, but it was being developed by young, people who grew up with Donkey Kong Country. And so it didn't forsake Donkey Kong Country in a way that Nintendo was doing in the GameCube era.
Right.
And so I think that from a marketing perspective, they will tie it into the 30th anniversary of Donkey Kong Country. And so, yeah, I think that for a time much rumored Donkey Kong game is real. I'm ready to still believe that, and I believe it'll be coming in 2024.
Donkey Kong Country 4.
And I yes, exactly. And I think it will be a Switch title, and it'll be like the big holiday Switch title.
Sure. That could obviously also be played on your
Exactly.
Super Nintendo Switch
or Nintendo Switch Deluxe.
I like this. This
Yeah.
is so this is so friendly here. Yeah, I mean, obviously that would be great. I want to play a new Donkey Kong Country game. Absolutely.
Could you do a Donkey Kong Muso game?
You could, yeah.
Just like hundreds and hundreds of gremlins everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird though.
And those like bumblebees with really big eyes.
Yeah, I'm just
like riding Rambi through them.
Yeah, I mean, no, it'd be cool, and then you like send Rambi off. I mean, yeah, it would work. All right, for my final prediction, Mario Baseball. We've got the other sports franchises represented on Switch already, and like Nintendo makes baseball games. Where's their baseball game on Switch?
Yeah, especially since you have the Joy-Con, which is an opportunity for them to do motion controls, or you can just do a traditionally controlled game.
Yeah. Like it feels like a genuine, and like the games came out in like the order you would expect them to, right? Like tennis, yes, first priority, Mario Tennis, yes. Golf after that, 100%. Soccer, sure. People love the Strikers games, but they love them as a third tier of this hierarchy. Which, like, baseball's next.
It is surprising that there is no baseball. I had no Mario baseball game.
Right. I mean, no Mario baseball game, but also just no baseball. Like, what's the last baseball game Nintendo made? Is it Rusty?
Was there one in Nintendo Switch Sports? Was baseball in Nintendo Switch Sports?
Great question. I don't think so. What are the sports in Nintendo Switch Sports? There's that sword swinging thing. There's 2 different racket sports. There's
I think you're right.
Soccer.
There's the show is no. Sorry. You were asking what games were what sports were in Nintendo Switch Sports.
Yeah.
Not what baseball games are on Nintendo Switch.
Right. MLB the show is on everything now. It's a Sony developed game, but it's on every platform.
Okay. Let's see. I'm on the Nintendo Switch Sports website. There is golf, soccer, volleyball, bowling, tennis, badminton, chambara.
That's the sword one.
And then there's golf, because they added golf as part of the free update.
Right. You actually started by saying golf.
Did I?
Yep.
Oh, good for me. Then, yeah, baseball is not part of this.
So there you go. Nintendo has not given us a way to play baseball on the Switch, and they got Mario, who has traditionally played it. So let's get that on there. Mark, are you? Those are our predictions for 2024 for the Switch, for whatever comes after the Switch.
Locking them in,
having our cake, eating them too. Are you excited about this year of Switch? Like I generally feel like it is tough to get excited about a new year of Nintendo products at the beginning of the year.
I think so too. We've repeated this cycle so many times, like 2023.
Yeah.
We're at the beginning of the year and we're like, I don't really know what this year holds. And then Super Mario Brothers Wonder exists.
Right.
We just don't have any idea in January.
Yes, totally.
So yeah, so I guess a qualified yes. I have faith that I'm going to be delighted by the end of the year when I look back and see everything that's been released. I have faith that I will end up being delighted. But right now, look, I'm in a Wolfman movie. I'm wandering on this road. It's foggy. I don't really know where I'm going. I just have faith that at the end, I'll have shot a Wolfman. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, that's kind of more the message of Big Fish, that you go on this big confusing adventure, and at the end of it, you're delighted.
I just don't remember them shooting a Wolfman in that movie.
I mean, they don't. No, wait, they do, actually. Danny DeVito turns into a wolf. This is actually a thing that happens in Big Fish. All right, Mark, let's close this out. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Would love to hear other people's predictions for this year regarding the new hardware, regarding any games that will be coming out. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about Nintendo Switch Online or the Nintendo Switch app on the phone, which traditionally those are things that we loop back around on. But I don't know. Some of that just feels like I was saying before. I don't know how long like NSO as it exists will continue to exist, and when some of that just becomes like standard.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, if you have any thoughts or suggestions or whatever, either get in our Discord or email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. And that's it. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.